131 kapena 0996 867 190. Maranatha Natural Healing Ministries, mabanja athanzi, dziko la thanzi.
Wakusina kutu ndi nasi.
Ase.
Yule, kuti umandina namo kudemoli manja?
Ase unandokiza ase. Nimaona ngati ndanyamata umwewo.
Chuchitika ndi chani banda? Chuchitika ndi chani mu festival?
Kunena zoona. Pankani ya business ndio maniforokozera.
Ndipo sini mabisa.
Koma nankani iyoka.
Iti.
Ase. Sunakuze.
Iti iyo masuka.
Ndani ya chikata ichi kuchokera ku Reserve Bank of Malawi. Kunena kuti ndipereke balance zanga ose plus penalty interest yokhuzana ndi pension zimene ndimatani ndimadula antchito angawa. Koma amwene sindikuziwa kuti anthuwa ayimva bwanji nkhaniyo. Ndiye mkwiyo
banda 20,640,000. Ndama mbiri tumenetse. Mwamonga stadium mucha.
Amwene.
Iwe.
Business simaenda. Nokha mukuziwa amwene kuti business simatani simaenda. Ndiye izizi ndakhala ndikuwadula anthu kwa zaka ziwiri koma osakatani osakapereka.
Banda zaka ziwiri?
Amwene komano chimene chachulukisa ndalama ndika penalty interest iko. Ndiye nimaona ngati kuti nditakayankhula nawo kuti mwina mwake pa penalty interest nimvereko chisu.
Iwaliratu banda, iwaliratu. Lamulo limakana zimenezi. Ine tesapo tombuyo mwe. Amati pension iziperekedwa masiku 10 ndi anayi mwezi ukangota. Kupanda kutero ndi muzingopereka tuzindapusa chochi. Chifukwa soto ndramayo sikuti ukalowa mu account ya Reserve Bank of Malawi. Ndramayo ukalowa mu account ya anthu amene alipira pension iwo. Kuti asokerere mabala dawo menewe wakhala nthawi imeneyo usakulipira. Ndi masamu ake amatenga rate ya Reserve Bank kuphatikizapo 10%. Kuti apangeno chindapusacho. Etu.
Ndiye pamene pamkumatani. Nditani ino sopano.
Usadenkhawa zanga banda. Upite ukakambirane nawo. Akakupasa nthawi yakaperekedwa kandramayo. Yoti uzikapereka pang'ono.
Ndiye bora.
Mmene tunafisa tunapangira.
Okay.
Ndikona ndumotona towina.
Ndiye sopano anthu waneni tanawo no sopano.
Inolemba anthu ntchito. Onetsetsani kuti mapereka ndalama za pensioni pasanathe masiku 14 mwezi ukatha. Perekani mu nthawi yake kuti muteteze antchito anu komanso tetezani bizinesi yanu.
It's time for news on Luntha television with me, Charwira Chilanga. First, let's have a look at the top stories. Pope Leo XIV highlights sacred music role in a deepening faith. Agriculture expert calls for strict measures as government returns to farm import subsidy program coupon system. Government pledges commitment towards promotion of women's football as the Scotias get a grand welcome from Malawians. And in other news, South Africa President Cyril Ramaphosa moves to tackle rising anti-migrant tension. We have the details to this and many more. Stay tuned. At Wednesday's General Audience, Pope Leo XIV reflected on the profound role of sacred music in the Church's liturgy, continuing his catechesis on the documents of the Second Vatican Council. Focusing on the 6th chapter of Sacrosanctum Concilium of the Council's Constitution on the Sacred Liturgy, Pope Leo stressed that singing and playing a musical instrument are acts of prayer. The Holy Father said, far from being merely decorative, sacred music unites the faithful in praising God and opens hearts to His grace. We have a Vatican News report read in our studios by Tandela Msamara.
The Pope observed that singing and playing sacred music in the liturgy means to pray and bring one's heart into harmony with that of one's brothers and sisters and with God through active participation in the mystery being celebrated. Recalling that music expresses the affective dimension of prayer, Pope Leo cited when St. Augustine said singing belongs to the one who loves. The Holy Father recalled that singing fosters communion, contributes to the union of hearts, overcoming differences between people and gathering everyone together in the praise of God. Pope Leo explained that given the profound theological significance of sacred song as an integral part of the liturgical action, certain requirements must be met. He said beyond fashions or particular sensibilities of individual composers, music must correspond at every level to what is most appropriate to the liturgical moment being celebrated. The Pope said that its form, especially in its melodic dimension, must at the same time be noble and simple, of high musical quality and easily performable, particularly when it is intended to be sung by the whole assembly. For the same reason, he reiterated that sacred song should be appropriate, profound, and at the same time readily understandable, drawing principally upon sacred scripture, the liturgical books, and the spiritual tradition of the Church. Accordingly, the Pope said this requires careful discernment and emphasized how the Constitution reflects on the active participation of the faithful. Finally, he echoed the Council's recommendation for adequate formation and practice of sacred music in seminaries, in the novitiate houses of studies for religious of both sexes, and also in other Catholic institutions and schools, while always ensuring that musicians and singers receive solid liturgical formation.
The Tobacco Commission has said it will pay more than 177 million kwacha in withheld proceeds to tobacco growers by Friday, August 28, 2026. In an interview with Luntha television, Tobacco Commission Public Relations Officer Telefolas Yuganambe said the payment will go to farmers who sold their tobacco before August 14th this year, after exceeding their allocated quotas. Clara Kamzad has filed this report.
Chigwenembe said ordinarily growers would be required to go to the commission offices to license their excess volume. But this year, to make things easier, licensing fees will be deducted directly from the withheld proceeds. He assured all affected farmers that arrangements are in place to facilitate payments by next week, Friday.
We'd like to make things easier for the growers, and for that reason, we will not request them to come. Instead, we'll simply deduct the licensing fees from the proceeds that we withheld. But we would like to assure all of them, all the farmers that sold their tobacco before August 14, that they will get their proceeds by next week, Friday.
Agriculture expert Taman Konovula has described the Commission decision as a positive move. He said that late payments may not benefit farmers much because of rising input costs, and urged the Commission to put in place measures to prevent excess sales in future. He said the quota system is necessary to ensure farmers produce within their means and avoid overproduction that affects the country economy.
If there could be any delay, of course, these resources may not be much beneficial to the farmers, because with the increase in the prices of inputs and all those, any delay is also going to have an effect on the farmers themselves.
The Tobacco Commission says the new arrangement to ensure farmers receive their money without delays in licensing. For Luntha Television News in Lilongwe, this is Clara Kamzat.
The Malawi Health Equity Network Mohini has supported a proposed government-to-government arrangement to send 500 Malawian nurses to work in Israel, arguing that the initiative could provide opportunities for qualified health workers who remain unemployed due to limited absorption into the local health system. Mahin Executive Director George Jobe says the organization has consistently advocated for the recruitment of all qualified healthcare workers to address the country's high vacancy rate, which he says is around 40%. More details on this report are read in our studios by Falas Chizombe.
Jobe says while government has made progress in recruiting healthcare workers, many qualified professionals have remained unemployed for years, with some reportedly turning to private health facilities where they are subjected to poor working conditions and low wages. He says sending some of the workers abroad could provide them with better livelihood opportunities while also benefiting Malawi if the arrangement is strategically managed.
All qualified healthcare workers who are not recruited now need to be recruited so that we meet the demand that is there, and we fill the high vacancy rate, which is around 40% or something like that.
Jobe says government should, however, develop a clear 3-year recruitment plan outlining the number of healthcare workers required, those already recruited, and those that can be made available for opportunities on the international market. He says Malawi can also benefit from workers who gain new knowledge and exposure to technologies while working abroad, which they could bring back and use to inform improvements in the country's healthy sector.
Agriculture expert Ronald Chimwaza has called for strict measures in the implementation of the Farm Input Subsidy Program (FISIP) following government's decision to return to the coupon system, saying proper identification of beneficiaries and monitoring of input distribution will be key to ensuring the program benefits the intended farmers. Chimwaza made the remarks while reacting to the FISIP reforms, which have brought back the coupon system for the distribution of farm inputs. Gift Kalonga has filed this report.
Chimwaza says the return of coupons does not necessarily mean the program will face more challenges, but government must learn from previous experiences and address weaknesses that affected the system in the past. He says measures should be put in place to prevent corruption, political interference, and the selling of coupons, while strengthening monitoring to ensure beneficiaries actually use the subsidy inputs for their intended purpose.
Yeah, for smooth implementation of subsidy program, I think what is important is the stringent measures in the whole setup of implementation, and not only the redemption process, because subsidy program implementation usually starts from identification of the beneficiaries. So if the implementers mess up the identification of the beneficiaries, we cannot have a very good program even using electronic or coupon system.
The Ministry of Agriculture intends to implement FISIP through a coupon-based system targeting 5,446 farmer groups, covering about 1.2 million beneficiaries for the 2026-2027 farming season. Beneficiaries will be identified and verified through farmer organizations and cooperatives, while farmers will be required to produce 2 bags of compost manure to access the inorganic fertilizer package. The ministry also plans to procure 61,000 metric tons of fertilizer with the Smallholder Farmers Fertilizer Revolving Fund of Malawi as the main supplier, while strengthening monitoring and bucket redemption to improve program implementation. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Agriculture is expected to launch the FISIP system in September this year as part of efforts to ensure timely implementation of the program. For Luntha News in Lilongwe, This is Gift Kalonga.
The NGO Gender Coordination Network is calling for legal and electoral reforms aimed at bridging the gap in women's representation in elected positions in Malawi. NGO Jisen Chaboson Makekatera Banda has emphasized the need for Malawi to consider adopting a quota system in politics to create opportunities for more women to enter local councils and parliament. Emmanuel Georgia reports.
Speaking with Luntha television, Katewera Banda argued that the deliberate measures are needed to address the persistent gender imbalance in a political leadership. She observed that women representation in Malawi remains low, referring to several African countries who have introduced career-defined quota system, including seats reserved for women, as one way of increasing their participation in decision-making.
We want more women in parliament and in local government. And what is the route? Our route that we are seeing is going to make maximum impact is to have quotas in place. Why? We have seen other African countries implementing such kind of quotas, and they're making progress.
Concurring with Katewera Banda, Women's Academy for Leadership and Political Excellence, WAPE Africa chairperson, Linga Lileni Mihoa, says more needs to be done to increase women representation in parliament, including preparing women well ahead of the elections and providing financial support given the high cost of political campaigns in Malawi.
We need to make sure that we have a high, retention rate of the women so that we do not have a high turnover of the women and just have the fresh ones coming in. And we need to really make sure that this starts early so that we can support their capacity building. And I know there are some organizations that are already supporting the post-election interventions to help them to be able to understand their three roles clearly: oversight, representation, and legislative roles.
With women still significantly underrepresented in Malawi, elected institutions, gender advocates says closing the gap will require more than political commitments. They note that achieving equal representation is essential to ensure that women have an equal voice in shaping Malawi's law, politics, and future.
Minister of Information Shadrack Namalomba says the government is ready to promote women's football following the impressive performance of the Malawi women's national football team with the Scorchers at the WAFCON tournament. He made the remarks at Kamuzu International Airport in Lilongwe as he joined the Malawians in welcoming the national team, whose plane landed at 4:36 p.m. on Wednesday. More details in this report are read by Wangani Chera.
Namalomba said that although the girls finished second, they have achieved something unprecedented in the country's history. He noted that Malawi was just one step away from winning the title, and the ladies have made us taste the sweetness of success.
Manyaza Malawi. Chifukwa sizidachitike bodies. Mkoya kwanga tukutulo. Number 2 in Africa. Mpangono ngono tu nakakhala number 1. Bwezo tuna kuti pano pata tenga chikho cha goli dejo. Komano
Also present at Kamuzu International Airport was Lilongwe Archdiocese Auxiliary Bishop, Right Reverend Vincent Makwawa, who encouraged parents not to prevent their children from pursuing what they want to do in life, such as playing football. He said the Scorchers should serve as a good example for parents to follow by allowing their children to pursue and fulfill their aspirations.
Timulimbikitse aphunzire sukulu koma zilimbikira mpira chifanthawi zino kumala kulemana kuti wa sports basi ndi zachibwana iyayi mulungu anatilengali yese ndi mphatso yake pali ena osena mpira ena netball ena othamanga tente alole chifamene aja ndi mulungu amene walenga wapatsa mphatso.
Football Association of Malawi First Vice President Christopher Madalitsokuera noted that the Scorchers have done the country proud expressing that their plan moving forward is to engage an extra gear in preparations ahead of the 2027 World Cup, which the team has qualified for.
Pay a salary. We need to have little friendly games to make sure that the players are in shape, they are still maintaining their fitness levels.
The Scorchers finished second in the Women's African Cup of Nations, WAFCON. Malawi's First Lady, Gertrude Montarika, led the welcoming ceremony for the Scorchers, who have also qualified for the 2027 World Cup in Brazil.
The Golden Boots Awards.
And in news from across the borders, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has called on leaders in the Southern African region to work together to address tensions between South African citizens and nationals from other countries over immigration and legal documentation. In recent weeks, South Africa has witnessed a protest targeting foreign nationals, particularly those without valid documentation to remain in the country. Nearly 176,000 people are reported to have returned to their home countries since June 13th this year. We have an African news reporter read in our studio by Itandewe Mzumara.
Speaking in Durban, President Ramaphosa called on leaders of the 16-member Southern African Development Community SADC to come together and find lasting solutions to the tensions surrounding foreign nationals living in South Africa. South Africa is regarded as one of the continent's largest economies and continues to attract people from across the region in search of employment and better economic opportunities. However, some South African citizens accuse foreign nationals of taking up jobs that should be available to locals, contributing to high unemployment in the country. On Monday, scores of South Africans staged protests near the venue where SADC leaders were meeting. The protesters said they did not want undocumented foreign nationals in the country and called on regional leaders to ensure that their citizens without valid immigration documents return home. They further urged leaders to tell their citizens that South Africa already has its own people and that those without legal documentation should leave the country. So far, 4 people have been confirmed dead since the protests began in June this year. During the summit, President Cyril Ramaphosa assumed the chairmanship of the Southern African Development Community from Malawi's President Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika.
That African News Report also brings us to the end of our today's bulletin, but let's have a recap of the top stories before we go. Pope Leo XIV highlights sacred music role in a deepening faith. Agriculture expert calls for strict measures as government returns to farm import subsidy program coupon system. Government pledges commitment towards promotion of women's football as the Scorchers get a grand welcome from Malawians. And in other news, South Africa President Cyril Ramaphosa moves to tackle rising anti-migrant tension. You've been with me, Charity Chilanga. Thanks for watching and stand by for the weather update.
Hello, it's time for the weather forecast. It was locally very cold area this morning. Temperatures were around 5 degrees. As a matter temperature recorded over Nyika. Mzuzu Airport recorded 7 degrees. So to Mwazisi and Kamuzu International Airport, 8 degrees was recorded over Chitedze and Dedza, among other places. We should expect cold to very cold and windy weather conditions to persist tonight and during morning hours with partly cloudy conditions late into the afternoon hours. Mwera winds will continue blowing strongly over the lake. Therefore, fishermen and all lake users be advised to take all the precautionary measures. This is so because we're still getting some moisture blowing from the Indian Ocean all the way into Malawi to sustain mwera winds over the lake with locally cold to very cold weather conditions at night and during morning hours. So tonight, expect clear skies over most areas, few clouds here and there over some parts of southern and central parts of Malawi. As we wake up tomorrow, temperature might drop to around 8 degrees as a minimum temperature for Dedza and over Lilongwe, around 9 over Mzuzu and Luntha. Expect cool conditions over lecture areas where Mangochi might clock a minimum temperature of 8 degrees, so too Ngabu and in Sanje. Clouds will be seen again during morning hours, particularly over southern areas and some parts of central parts of Malawi. More sunny skies to persist over central, lakeshore and over the north. Later into the afternoon tomorrow, it will be a little hot over Mangochi with temperatures of around 29 degrees, around 31 over Ngabu and in Sanje. Otherwise, warm weather conditions will persist over southern areas, over Blantyre, Zomba, Mulanje, and over the central, like over Lilongwe and over Dedza. Later into the afternoon hours, more sunny skies will persist, coupled with some windy conditions over southern areas, the central, lakeshore, and over the north. Looking further into Friday, we should expect more sunny skies to persist again, few clouds here and there over some parts of central and southern parts of Malawi. Well, that's it for tonight, and have a good night.
Luntha Television stands as an autonomous faith-based broadcaster with a national and international reach. Experience the difference with Luntha Television, where innovation meets experience. Our dedicated team, backed by cutting-edge technology, ensures seamless execution and unparalleled results. Luntha guarantees credibility and professionalism in all its endeavors and services. We offer, among this, production and broadcasting of jingles, music videos, narratives, documentaries, press services and programs, on location or outside, live broadcasting of mass and other church functions, government or indoor functions, and political rallies, creation and broadcasting of special programs, sponsored content, sports and entertainment, and advertising for small, medium, and large enterprises. All services are offered at competitive prices. Tune in daily to catch Luntha Television on Zuko on Channel 51, Starsat Channel 474, Star Times Channel 474, Topstar 474, Kriye 007, GoTV on Channel 807, Azam on Channel 386, and live streams on our YouTube and Facebook platforms. You can find us in Area 2 Lilongwe or can reach us on 0883 815 055. Come, let us help you grow your business.
Luntha TV is now on Zuku Channel 51. You can get yourself a Zuku decoder from the Luntha TV offices in Area 2, Lilongwe, and from all the St. Manford bookshops across the country in Kasungu, Lilongwe, Salima, Dedza, Balaka, Zomba, Mulanje, Blantyre, Chikwawa, Mwanza, and Mangochi. For more information, contact 0883 815 055 or 0996 892 965. Get a Zuku decoder today and not